Hey, everybody, it's Honesty, and this is the Right Honesty podcast. I am here with my co-host, AG, Attorney General. How you doing?
I'm excellent.
I am glad to hear that you're excellent. I'm excellent too, mainly because of what we're talking about today.
Yes.
Are you ready to talk about personal?
I am. I'm ready to talk about whipping and handcuffs and yes.
Um, okay. So I I don't I don't know where to start with this. I don't know where to start because it caught me completely off guard. I thought I was getting one story, and at about 33%, come to find out I'm getting a different story. So I know how I feel about it. I know the parts that I reread and the parts that I went back to, but I think we should start with you. How did it hit you?
I loved it.
Me too.
In particular, there were I think that one of the themes that hit me very strongly with this, which considering what was happening in this book, this may be a minor theme for other people, of the beautiful balance that she struck between things that changed and things that stayed the same.
Yeah.
That defined these two people and made it more palatable for me to be like, okay, we doing this? Are we doing this? Armand and Ella, are we really doing this? And I thought there was just this perfect balance of things that were quite different and some things that were the same from when we last saw these two characters or thought we saw these two characters. Because I suspect that the majority of her readers, when she said, the next book is going to be about Armand, it was like, okay, all right. We want to know, maybe some of us want to know his torture story.
I didn't. I was like, why?
I was interested. I wanted to know more about him. But the bomb was when she said his love interest is Ella McClain. I feel like those of us in her book group were like, what?
What's wrong with you?
Yeah. And being able to bring us this story that made me fall in love with Armand. I was like,
head over heels. I told you by the end of it, I loved him more than I loved her.
I was like, you baby. And see Ella as a grown woman.
She ain't a Toys R Us kid no more.
No. Right. Ella, I feel like, was like our little niece, like, oh, once she stopped being, bitchy to Joe and that, that ran its course and let me love you.
Yeah.
Well, it was understandable. But we still, I think many of us, I certainly viewed Ella as the teenager.
Yeah.
Right. So the other thing that I kept coming back to was that time difference was critically important. And I thought the way A House did it, it was subtle, but it was potent enough for you to understand, right? Because I figured out we're talking basically 9 years because of little Leland's age, right? Because I was like, okay, so I was like, little Leland is 8. All right. Because when he really showed his ass with Kim was pregnant.
She was pregnant.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm like, so all right, 9 years. And then with Ella, I'm like, okay. So we're basically talking about almost a decade. Right. Which allows, again, going back to like my initial point of, it allowed the space for things to change, while also some things staying the same. Some things being like Armand's temper, right? I like that we were still getting him where his temper was still out of control, and yet he reached a point where he was ready to make a change, right? I like that Ella's relationship with Esther was still not in a good place, because that wasn't necessarily given attention in the other books, but it wasn't a jump to assume that relationship was not going to be a good one, right? Because
Well,
Esther
that
was
lady is
still,
crazy.
yeah, she's crazy. She was still very much steeped in her foolery. She was still name calling and so on and so forth. So seeing that relationship, getting an a front row seat to that relationship, or the lack thereof, and the why of it, that made perfect sense to me, right? And I was like, okay, yeah, because had it been Esther managed to do a whole turnaround, and Ella has a great
Mhm.
relationship with her
No,
mother, I'd have
thank
been
you.
like, that might be a
No,
little
thank
bit
you. I'm not
too.
interested.
So I loved it because there was a good balance of things that I could fully embrace as being different and be like, yes, no, this is different.
Yeah.
And there was enough where I was like, yeah, no, it makes sense. That it made sense to me that he and Leland still, that he still wants nothing
Yeah.
to do with Leland,
Yeah.
right? And the fact that he was still very iffy with his mother. But the beauty of that with the kids was, Leland and Layla were both old enough to speak those little opinions, right, without a
Mhm.
filter, but too young to be the target of his resentment and his, distaste and all of that once
Right.
they were in his face, right? Like he couldn't bring himself to like hold what he felt towards Kim and Leland against these two little human beings who just wanted to play with him.
Mhm.
And I love that because we needed to see Armand as more than just this violent, angry, tortured, troubled soul who candidly, many of us felt like the last time we saw him was like, drop him off, short walk on a what is it, long walk on a
On a
short
short pier.
pier, let him sleep with the we don't care. And here we were in this book, like, oh,
Yeah.
let me just hug you, you precious little thing, which is just incredible. Like, I understand now why she was like, as she was writing, she was talking about being exhausted and they were taking her through it, and it's still going, and a house, this was, definitely, it sounded like a sojourn for her,
Mhm.
getting this book done. And I think that came through in terms of what these two people have been through before they get to each other,
Mhm.
um, and then coming together and building something super duper sexy, but so precious, right? It's like it
Mhm.
would be a mistake to be so caught up in the BDSM of it that you miss the really precious, beautiful thing that blossomed between these two hurt, um, I don't like saying damage, but
Mhm.
two folks that been through
They
some
have
stuff,
baggage. Yeah,
yeah,
with
with
baggage.
baggage, and who fully embraced each other, right? And it was just like, I
So
see you and I love you.
let me tell you what took me out. This is what took me out. Him calling her sir.
Yes.
Every time he called her sir, it took me out. But okay, so let me say this. I was all for the BDSM of it all. I did not see it coming. Um,
I remember you
but
reaching out while you were reading.
yeah, I definitely was like, girl, where you at on the what percentage? What is your percent? Because I got to talk about this.
You're like, it's coming. You're like,
I was
it's
like, the
coming.
left turn is coming in just a minute. Just you gonna turn left. And I was like, and I remember messaging you and being like, finish reading it today.
Yes.
Today.
Yes. You were so
Read the
demanding.
fucking book today. Because I was like, I gotta hash this out with somebody. But two things came back to me. Or came to me as I was going through coming with the notes. The first is that in the epigraph, she has a quote by Dr. King, and it says, the true measure of a man is not how he behaves in moments of comfort and convenience, but how he stands at times of controversy and challenge. And then a quote from Alice Walker, which is the most common way people give up their power is by thinking they don't have any.
Yeah.
And so with Armand having this past in terms of like being abused by his mom's boyfriends, his mom kind of being in a headspace where she put up with it for a period of time, but then thankfully was able to come out of it. But those scars remain.
Yeah.
And so him kind of going into protective mode and over her to a degree that became wildly unhealthy.
Yes.
Like in the book between Leland and Kim, he was completely painted as the villain, and rightly so.
Yeah.
But it, and even though she told his story and she said why he is the way that he is,
Yeah.
I still was ready to throw him away.
Yes. Yes.
So when we see him now and he's still having those issues, like you said, 9 years later, and still blacking out and still misbehaving, very much put me in the mind of like a Ron Artest
Mm,
or even like a Dennis Rodman, like somebody
mm-hmm.
that they're like, as talented as you are, like we
Yeah.
can't get you to act right.
Yeah.
All of that lined up for me, where she really got next to me, and where I was like, I'm gonna have to message somebody that I think might know her, is bringing in the BDSM. But this is why, to me, at the first mention of it, I was like, wait, what? I was like, how is she going to make this anything but another opportunity for him to fail?
Interesting.
Because
Okay.
the whole thing for him had been he could not control himself. And so, and we know that BDSM is just role play, even whatever the flavor it is, whether you degradation, praise, brat, all this, whatever it is, it's role playing. And so role playing in almost any form can be therapeutic. I do it. When I was doing therapy, I used to do it with folks all the time. So to me, BDSM as a therapeutic intervention makes a whole lot of sense to me. And I completely understood why, what is it, Mother Erica?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
who was Neil's
Mm-hmm. From
therapist.
the Sankofa Center.
Yes, who was Neil's therapist. Like I completely bought that Mother Erica would say, you got to take your power back. Now you didn't let this man talk to you crazy behind the scenes. Y'all pretending like y'all got the best life. Y'all doing keeping up with On One and Ella or whatever the name of
Mm-hmm.
the reality show was. But you've given away your power in that you've given yourself over to a lie in public. You've
Yeah.
let this thing talk crazy to you inside your house. You've let him put hands on you. He got a
Yeah.
secret drug addiction. The mom and the sister know. Ain't nobody saying shit. Ain't nobody
Yeah.
trying to save you. You
Yeah.
know you can't tell your daddy because you don't
Right.
want him to go to jail.
Right.
And so I completely bought that Mother Erica would say, let's get your power back.
Mm-hmm.
And one way to do that is through this time of role play where it is completely up to you.
Yeah.
And when the role play go when you say go, and the role play stop when you say stop.
Yes.
So I got all of that, but I really was like, how is she going to make it so he don't lose himself and swing on her? Or that, and it was so, which is why it was so meaningful to me once she does use I think she uses like the oh, what is it called? I like maybe a flogger or maybe a riding crop. She uses something on him, but she doesn't tie him up.
Right.
And he's
Right.
crying afterwards. And she
Yes.
said, you thought you were going to hit me.
Yes. Yes.
And so that was the biggest thing for me once the BDSM was revealed, that I was like, how is he not going to fail this?
Yeah.
And then, to create this whole other issue between his family and her family and whatever.
Yeah.
So I thought it was so well done. I loved it. I fell in love with him. Like I said, mainly because his arc was a more transformative one.
Yeah. Yeah.
But by the time it was all said and done, he's my favorite of all of them now.
How the tables have turned.
I know, because leading up to this, Leland was I like Leland, Neil, and Nolan. Those three are my favorite in no particular order. The other ones are cool. I love them. I've read all of them. But Leland, Neil, and Nolan are my favorites. But now it's him. All the rest of them can go sit down.
So it's funny because for me, I thought with the BDSM, and again, this spoke to Ella no longer being a little girl, right? Like truly being a grown woman. She knew what she was doing, right? And I thought
it went in baby steps, because remember, for her, it didn't start off sexual.
Exactly. And that's what I mean. Like A House laid it out so that Ella was clearly very thoughtful and methodical about how it progressed, right? So she didn't immediately start with right, you signed a contract and now I'm whooping your ass, right? And I thought that was important, and going back to the time jump and us getting backstory that Ella had been through some things, because I thought about this and I thought to myself, I hate to say it this way, but I'm going to articulate it and then maybe try and find a better way to explain myself if it doesn't come out the right way. But I almost felt like what Ella went through with Jackson on one
Mhm.
gave her a level of credibility is not the right word. Maybe it's authenticity in
Mhm.
this. Maybe it's authenticity is the better word for what she ultimately did and allowed me to be like, okay. Because I think that had we been told Ella learned this from an older lover who turned her
Right.
out
Right.
and they just went their separate ways, I'm sure that A House would have made that work if that was the path she chose. But
Mhm.
this felt like I bought this hook, line, and sinker because I was like, yeah, I'm with you
Mhm.
on Mother Erica being like, this is a way
It had
that
more
you can
depth this
take your
way.
power back.
Yep.
This
Yep.
is a way that you can call the shots, right? This
Mhm.
is a way that you can feel completely empowered. And Ella being like, yeah, yeah,
Mhm. Like, oh,
okay.
I like this. Now wait a
Right.
minute.
And then, but then also the sweet niece, not that we want to think of our nieces having sex, and I have
Right.
nieces that are Ella's age, and also again, I don't want to think about it that way, but the aftercare being so thoughtful, so loving, right?
That was my favorite
Her
part.
baking I loved it too, which I
Mhm.
thought it was a combination of, I think in the beginning, because she started with baby steps.
Mhm.
And I think he was intrigued enough and was just like, all right, what have I got to do to hit?
And she was
Right.
good, Shahana. The man would be shaking and crying and carrying on.
Yes. Yes. And then he was experiencing the pleasure. So it was
Yes.
like, okay, so we doing this BDSM thing, but more than anything, it's about amplifying and, magnifying my pleasure.
Well,
Okay, so this
also,
is not a bad thing.
right. Just this one part is what took me out. So like the sexually, right, it was great. So because she can write a sex scene and that's cool. But just even like thinking about him giving up his power, but also being powerful in that moment, because she later explains to him that by submitting,
Yes.
you're the one with the power, you're the one that
Yes.
gets the safe word.
Yes.
But so in the first time they do it, he is on his knees and she gets down on her knees with her chest to the floor in order to be able to put her mouth on this man.
Yeah.
Just the visual of that. So like you're saying about the baby steps, even in the beginning, she was not in a dominating posture,
Right.
even though she was the one being the dom. I swear to God, she
Yes.
wrote the book. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yes, yes, yes. I mean, seriously, like it, and so to me, that's why it made sense. And I was able to buy it without
Mm-hmm.
questioning as we're watching him. And he's not having that explosive reaction of, bitch, what you doing? Where he
Right.
flips out, like, what are you trying to do? Because
Right.
she didn't throw him into the deep end
Right.
of the pool,
It
right?
was
They
non-threatening.
Yeah, it was very non-threatening,
Mm-hmm.
and he was seeing for himself the pleasure that was available, so
Right.
his attraction to her continued to increase because he's like, okay, I already was attracted to her,
Mm-hmm.
now I'm finding out she got some bomb ass, right?
Right. Right.
And she's pleasing me,
Mm-hmm.
and she's taking care of me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where also, creating that space for him to become more and more vulnerable, right? Where now
Right.
he starts sharing things and
Mm-hmm.
and telling her, the why of things, and
Yes.
all of that stuff. But like, had Ella come out the gate with the whip,
Right.
it
Right.
might have
Right.
gone differently,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so the fact that Ella didn't come out the gate with like the hardcore, because I got you to sign the contract, you said you're okay with it, we agreed on your safe word, let's start at square 10.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
which,
Mm-hmm.
look, I don't purport to obviously be an expert, that's not my scene. From what I understand, that's not how you would start anyway.
Right.
But again, Ella was showing like a true level of maturity as a woman, as a dom, right? Just because she wasn't trying to come at him for purposes, yeah, now let's do this,
Now I'm just gonna
right?
go whoop your ass.
Right, right. It's like, let's turn up the dial, let's turn up that. And then again, the aftercare. Um, and I thought this was beautifully done, and I think reflective of maybe how women, one of the differences between women and men, arguably, right? That
Mm-hmm.
like the aftercare was like his favorite snacks were available. They
Mm-hmm.
were watching the
Laying in his
documentaries that
lap
he
and
liked, laying in
laying
his
in
lap.
her lap.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, those little that she heard, that he articulated, and she made sure she paid attention to that and reflected that back, right? Because you see that he himself didn't make that connection. He was like, oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I guess I did put this down. I was like, yeah, you did.
Right. And she's
Right?
paying attention. But
She paid
also the
attention to
fact
that.
that their relationship, they didn't start in a relationship. They
Right.
started with BDSM, and the
Yes.
relationship bloomed in the aftercare. And
Yes.
that's
Yes.
why it was my favorite part, because it was in the watching of the nature documentaries and in the peanut butter cookies that, like you're saying, they really started to get to know each other
Yeah.
and have like meaningful conversations. And no, we don't get 1,000 conversations, but there's enough there for us to know that those intimate aftercare moments wasn't all of it.
Right.
There
Right.
was more to it that wasn't on the page. And
Yes.
the juxtaposition to that is Ezra and Lex in their aftercare moments, which did not have the same ring to me of um like the sweetness of it.
Well, yeah. No, and I think that again, I think that last point kind of goes back to, I feel like, well, obviously two different writers, but
Right.
two that arguably a difference between men and women,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because when Ezra was doing the aftercare for Lex, he was still in the Spock mode,
Yes.
right? Of let me
Yes.
make sure you don't have any bruising. Let me make sure
Yes.
that I've
The
washed you.
arnica.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let me make sure that I've moisturized your skin. Whereas
Uh-huh.
Ella was thinking about the truly thoughtful touches of
Yes. That would
let me
make it.
make
Yes.
you physically, mentally, emotionally comfortable. And if that means that we're laying there watching this documentary about cheetahs in the wild, because
Right.
that's your jam, we're going to do that. I've
Well,
made sure that
and
you're not in pain, right? I've made
right.
sure that you don't have whatever bruising or whatever the case may be, but you've expressed that this is something that you enjoy. So as part of our aftercare, we're going to do that.
And let me do enough in this aftercare moment that you don't feel humiliated.
Yes, yes,
So
yes, all of that.
it was her opportunity to show him that she respected his sacrifice, that
Mm,
she wanted him to be comfortable,
hmm.
that she understood that, she was asking him to get on all fours and call her sir.
Yes,
And she
yes,
had to suck his dick real good before he would even, you know what I'm
yes,
saying? Like, and because I think with men, there is not, I think I know there is another layer of self-protection as it relates to masculinity,
yes,
that she just did such a phenomenal job showing that the way that a man who was new to this, I think it's different if you've been in that life and you don't have those hangups.
hmm,
But if you're new to this, how do I make this guy who may just be in it for how I make him feel,
yeah,
ultimately accept this as a part of what just we do? And we see him do that. Like,
yeah.
we see him accept that this is a part of our relationship that I like. I don't feel disrespected. I don't feel emasculated. And, it's good to get the feeling of like, if not unconditional love, definitely unconditional care,
Yeah.
which I think is what was reparative. So, like in interpersonal therapy, one of the main things that's important about that is reliving or kind of cycling through things that would have set you off, but you experience them with a person that knows how to walk you through your emotional process. And so if I was your
Mm,
therapist, you and I would talk about something that would make you mad or make you sad or make you anxious. But during that conversation, I would be pulling on the threads of, what are you feeling now? And what does that make you think? And what's another way that you might say that? Or how could we reframe
mm,
that? And so
hmm.
right in that moment of me triggering you potentially, but us having a conversation, you begin to see like, okay, this is another way to handle it. And I have been framing this feeling as negative, but actually maybe it's informative. And I've been,
Mm,
so it was really like watching him. This is a new way to experience something
yes,
that would have been triggering for me.
yes.
I'm gonna tell you she wrote the book. That's all I'm gonna tell
Yes.
you.
Yes. Now you see why the woman was posting and saying she was exhausted and they were
She
working her
wrote the
over and
book.
they were kicking her behind and you know, but I still remember a post. She said, "Y'all, they done wore me out." But one thing I know is that Armand Daniels keeps clearly telling me he loves himself some Ella McClain,
He clearly
and
does.
that came all the way through. You know, it also made sense to me that, and I don't know that I would have thought of it this way until I saw it positioned this way, but it made sense to me that someone with that kind of violent temper um would, it's not that they can't ever be vulnerable or can't ever submit, right? But again, going back to that like lock and key analogy,
Mm-hmm.
you need the right person. And look, I do think that when he starts meeting with, and I'm blanking on the name of the therapist, I was
Nate.
glad
No,
that,
Nate is the manager. Who
right,
was
I'm
the
blanking at
therapist?
Dr. Carlin maybe.
Something. Let me look.
But I was glad that that was a part of it,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to, and it's done in such a way where it's like, yes, he is
The
actively going
Alvin
to,
Charles.
yes, Mr. Dr. Charles,
Mm-hmm.
he's actively going to therapy, and Dr. Charles is like, well, whatever's going
It's
on, whatever you
working.
got going on is working. So but it's not completely throwing out whatever's happening in
Yeah.
therapy, right? It
Yeah.
is, while it's making clear that what's transpiring and evolving between he and Ella is really producing the major fruit. Again, another piece that made total sense to me, because
Mm-hmm.
you got to be willing to be vulnerable to do the work, right?
Yeah.
And that doesn't just come because you're sitting in a room with someone that your
Mm-mm.
team has told you have to see on a weekly
Mm-hmm.
basis or whatever it is. But I was glad that it wasn't just he and Ella. I was glad that the therapy
Yeah,
was
that
a
there was a
part of it.
supplement. Yeah.
Because a point that you've made in the past, which I think is a point is well taken, and I think look, it can play well when it's done well. It's not that I'm critiquing it, but this, notion of like people being healed just through love, just through
Mm-hmm.
sex,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
as opposed to, it's like, well, no, therapy has its place too, medication has its place too,
Right.
like,
Right. Right.
there's
Right.
other parts
Exactly.
of this. And A House didn't make us choose, right? Like, we
Yeah.
got him going to the therapy and probably, starting to engage. Although, let's remember, the explosive, what is it called?
Intermittent explosive disorder.
Intermittent explosive disorder, right? That email comes before the Ella,
Mm-hmm.
before the date and all of that,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's like
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Charles has his place where he has put a name to this thing
Right.
for Armand, which, he goes through all, that whole cycle of emotions on how he felt about it. And I remember going back to that where Dr. Charles is like, well, why do you think that applies to you? And he was like, well, you sent it to me. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
you think. He's like, yeah, I know why I sent it to you because
Right.
I think it applies to you. I'm asking you why you think it
Mm-hmm.
applies to you, right? And him seemingly for the first time, like really articulating with his word, truly verbalizing, because he obviously had it in his head why, his discomfort and how it made him feel. But I didn't get the sense that from the prior therapist he had actually said, talking about this makes me feel like crawling outside of my skin.
Mm-hmm.
I feel
Mm-hmm.
like, like, what is wrong with me? It didn't feel like he had necessarily been willing to be that transparent with prior therapists.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like there was it wasn't a balance. It was clearly weighted heavier in favor of what was
Yeah.
happening between he and Ella. But I liked that the therapy with Dr. Charles had its place too.
Yeah. Well, and because in his experience with Ella, what he learned was that he didn't constantly have to be protecting himself,
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm,
that he didn't have to be afraid of his feelings.
mm-hmm.
And so the bait is, or the carrot is, that she gonna suck the life out of me. You
Yes.
know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But in that process of him anticipating her finally giving him what he wanted, he learned, like, what is this headspace that I'm often in, and how is it different from the one I'm in right now?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, it was to the point that you're making, like, as he starts to talk to Calvin, what did we say?
Dr.
Charles,
Charles.
about it. That he was like, I don't know. I kind of like it. I don't,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, what you think about it? You know, because he was trying to make sense of the fact that for whatever reason, in the sub headspace, there was like freedom,
Right.
much more so than constantly being on the prowl and constantly vigilant, you know?
Right. And to your point about someone who always felt like they had to protect themselves, right? It made perfect sense to me that he submitted rather easily once
Mm-hmm.
he felt safe and protected. He
Mm-hmm.
never felt that.
Right.
Kim never gave him that. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I completely understood his continued resentment towards her.
Yes.
Right.
Well,
I
now, let me
got
be
that.
honest. I didn't accept it until this book.
I
Because
got it.
I was so in love with Leland and Kim in the first book, I did not allow my mind to go to what it would be like in his shoes when you
Yeah.
consistently see your mother refuse to protect you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it wasn't until this book that I got it from his perspective that I was like, God damn it, Kim.
Yeah, I got it from her book. But I was still like, but
You
little
didn't know how
Nicolette,
to
like
act.
you need to go, somebody need to whoop your ass
Uh-huh.
real good, like really good. Um, but I got it. And I think, it was the not having the tools, right? So it's
Yeah.
like, okay, so it's great that mom goes and finds love, and I'm not saying that Kim left him behind, right? It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
that, but it was like mom goes and finds love that heals her. And it's
Right.
like, okay, well, what about me?
Right.
What about me? And
And
I go
with
back.
somebody that's my rival, you embarrassing me, you picking a
Yeah.
nigga that, you know.
And I just think that even, and we'll look, because we will discuss Leland and Kim at some point. But even the
Yeah,
way
I
she
love them.
handled that in the very beginning, it was like it was not. It was reinforcing the very toxic dynamic that had always been present, right? And listen, as I'm sure that you've seen, I've seen, and it reminds me of something that you have said on our show before. That being the case, how do we proceed from here?
Mm-hmm.
Right. That one of your phrases. And when I think about people who feel like their parents failed them, or objectively speaking, their parents did fail them,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they didn't have the tools to work that through. And then you hit a certain age where society says, congratulations, you're an
Get
adult.
over it. Yeah.
Get over it.
Mm-hmm.
This is your life. Nobody wants to hear about the baggage you're carrying, because it doesn't matter. Like, mom and dad aren't responsible for you anymore. You're responsible for yourself.
Right. Which
And
is so
it's like,
unrealistic.
it's unrealistic. And it's like, on the one hand, I think it becomes the messaging, right? Because on the one hand, the thrust of that is accurate. Your life is now yours.
Right.
Right? You are now responsible for your life going forward. The problem with the messaging of the get over it is it's dismissive.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not acknowledging the damage that was done, right? Whereas a more productive way is to say, I think your point is, all that being the case,
What we
where
gonna
do
do
you
now?
go from here? What do you do now? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's not dismissing what was
Right.
done to you,
Right.
but it is acknowledging that hanging your hat on that ain't gonna get you
No.
far.
No. Right. So not just get over it, but how?
Yeah.
Where I
Yeah.
supposed to go? Who I supposed to talk
Yeah.
to? I
Yeah.
already don't trust the people in my fucking family.
Yeah.
So where you tell me where I start? I supposed to go on
Yeah.
email and fix my life? The show is off
Yeah.
the air.
Exactly.
So in addition to you 18 now, get over it, or you grown, get over it. It dismisses how hard it is to find
Yes.
your individual particular how am I
Yes.
going to get over it?
Yeah.
And he would have never in 1,000,000 years thought, oh, you know what's going to help me?
Right.
BDSM.
Right. Right.
That would have never come across his Instagram feed.
Right. With my stepfather's niece.
With my stepfather's niece. It would have never,
Never.
ever happened.
Never.
And so I think, intentional or not, one of the other beautiful things about this story is just how much luck plays a part
Yeah.
in people's growth, development, and overcoming.
Yeah.
Everybody don't get lucky.
Yeah.
But he happened to get lucky and have this woman who had been through her own set of traumas and had already done her healing, because
Yeah.
they could have been two messes together.
Yes.
But
Yes.
she had already done some work. And so they were able to come together and figure some things out. That's luck.
Well, wait a minute now, because you know the phrase that luck is the intersection of preparation and opportunity.
It's
Because
true.
don't forget, and shout out to Lisa for reminding me of this little tidbit earlier today when she posted. Because remember, Ella says, "Oh, you want to know how I ended up in your city? It wasn't by accident, baby."
Yes, that's true.
So
That's true. That's true.
So, you know,
That's true.
part
She
of
said, I
this,
came here for you.
exactly. So I do think that's, one of those examples where, she made some decisions, but
Yeah.
also by virtue of him making some decisions,
Now, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
because I would just say he had to make the decision to be open to see where it might go, and query whether before he would have been at that point or not. I don't know, right? I don't know.
So this is my question to you. How do you frame her moving there with him being in the condition she had always known him to be in? What do you think her motivation was for that? Because he looked like a broken motherfucker to me.
Yes.
I wouldn't have moved nowhere for his ass. So he looked like a headache and a half.
So I think it's him. Maybe is it him or is it her or is it both of them? One of them during the first dinner, I think it's Armand. Where he has this moment and he says that despite the smiles, he could see the sadness.
Yeah.
In her eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And maybe he says something like he doesn't think that anybody else realized it, but he could see it. And I feel like she said something similar back to him. Maybe I'm making that up, right?
No, I think so.
That like she saw in him.
It was definitely a game recognized game.
Yes, in their passing. And I feel like that's what it was, right? That she saw enough to be like, that's worth exploring. And I also think there was a certain amount of safety net.
Yeah.
In that I don't think she placed too much weight on it, but I do believe in her mind, she thought he will not cross the line. Number one, I won't let him cross the line. But number two, he's going to be cognizant of not crossing the line because of my uncle and my father.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I don't think she placed a tremendous amount of weight on that, but I think that at a certain level, she thought that was a boundary he would be cognizant of until she could get her hooks into him and show him for herself. Baby, you don't need to worry. Like, you can be with this. We can do this.
Yeah.
Almost felt like she felt like I just need to hook him because then I can reel him in.
Maybe so.
I think so. I think that there was a certain level of he's not going to completely wild out on me because we are not blood related, but we are in the same family. But then also, I am not going to push, provoke, antagonize to bring that out of him. And I think I know how to both navigate that and bring out the best in him. And she was right? Because even the club, the VIP scene, right? Where she gets him hot and bothered. He doesn't wild out on her.
Right.
He doesn't even curse her out on text. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? He doesn't do any of that, right? Why? I
Mm-hmm.
think it was in part because he was attracted to her, but also in part because of who she was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And just being like, and then she apologizes. That's why I'm saying I feel like it was the boundary that he observed, but she didn't overplay that. And then
Okay.
she reeled him in on her own, I think.
Hmm. I'll take that. I think I I don't know what her motivation was to go after him other than thinking he was cute, you know. And maybe I guess what I was trying to figure out once you reminded me that yeah, that she definitely was like this was not an accident, was kind of like, is this, you know how sometimes some women like fixer uppers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I was like, is she about to flip this house, you know, in terms of getting
God,
him into some kind of order for herself or for the next woman? I don't know.
goodness.
Because I
Hilarious.
used to flip houses, but I've been delivered. Amen.
Well,
Um,
but also remember, right? I mean, we've seen this in other books, right? Where doms are able to recognize.
that's where I was going.
Okay, okay, that's where you're going.
I
Okay,
was like, is this a
interesting.
situation where she is still broken and she's choosing the broken thing, or is this a situation where she can see what might benefit him if only he would open up his mind?
Why does it have to be either or?
Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
think it
it
has
could
to be
be
either
both.
or.
It could be both, but
It could be a
that's,
combination of the two.
yeah, it could be a combination of the two. And
Because maybe what I thought she was seeing was she said, "Oh, he look good with a collar around his neck." I'm thinking
oh
she's
my
seeing
God, the collar! I forgot
his
about the
brokenness,
collar.
and instead she's like, "He look real good with a nice choker around his neck."
Right. Well, but think about this too: the brazenness of her seeking him out.
Yeah, yeah,
Like even that showed a whole other level of grown woman agency. I don't give a
yes,
fuck, because you see that it was her plan from the beginning. If it worked out good, if it didn't, okay too.
yes,
But you know, which is why it completely adds up that by the time her family finds out, and you know, she in the hospital room, she only want him.
right,
And
right,
you know, it's her that explains to them, you know, hey, leave him alone. And which,
yeah,
you know, I think we talked about this, that by the time he's talking to Big South, he says, this her show. Okay, when
yes,
she say jump,
yes.
I don't even ask how high, I
I
just
just started
jump and
jumping.
hope it's high enough.
Yes,
I said, you better tell the truth, boy.
yes,
But it completely lines up now that you're reminding me that, you know, they had this date from since the beginning.
yes,
that
yes.
she would have already worked it out in her mind how she's going to handle the family angle.
And you know what? Anything short of that level
Yeah.
of humility and vulnerability, I think that Big South still would have whooped his ass on principle,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But it's like, how can you can't beat on somebody that has just told
That's
you
it, that they worship your daughter.
they worship her. Like I'm literally gonna start jumping and hope that it's high enough. And
Right.
with zero ego, he wasn't playing.
Right. He
He
said, I
was
just
not
want the
laughing.
feedback.
Right. He was just like, this is the state of affairs here.
Right.
I am her.
I
Yes,
belong to
yes,
her.
yes. I am her property.
Yeah.
Yes, this is my collar. Hello.
Right.
Right.
For
I mean,
sure.
and I love that because it takes me back to, if you go, for example, back to Kat and Tommy, when
Mm-hmm.
South and Leland confront Tommy, and Tommy's like, "Well, I'm not gonna let you cut my dick off. Like, let's get a couple of things straight here, okay? Like, I hear you and I respect you, but ain't gonna be no dismembering of
Right.
body parts over here. Like, there was no room for that because Armand was such an explosive, violent character. Like, again, that was just beautifully done, so that I think not just Big South and Leland being like, well, what the fuck we supposed to do with that? Like, how we can't whoop his ass after he says that? Like, we just
Right.
gotta let this go. Like, he done gave us the farm. Like, there's
Right.
nothing
Well, it's so
more.
funny too, because I love when she does the like as if they're having the family group chat, or like if one of them, you know, pretends post something to Instagram.
Yes, yes,
There's one where Kat is like in a bikini or whatever, sitting in a
yes,
chair, and
yes,
all of them are in the comments tagging
yes,
Tommy, and he said, y'all know she can beat my ass. I don't know what
yes,
you're tagging me for.
yes, yes. Tommy's like, I don't know what you expect me to do about this. Like, she can whoop me. Like, we're not doing that. So
Right.
yeah,
Y'all need to
because
handle
Big South is
yourselves.
exactly is like, Tommy, come get her. And he was like, what are you saying? What are you talking about? Please. Like, and I love just Because we knew that it was indicative of his healing, right? Of
Yeah.
Armand's healing, that he could be just that transparent about his feelings. Like he did no airs, no nothing. He wasn't putting on for her father. He was speaking the truth,
Right.
his truth. Like it wasn't even about, I don't want you to be upset with me, because you're her father and I want you to like this. He was just like, I belong, she owns me. Like she
Well,
owns
and
me.
without shame, because
Exactly. Yes.
it's so good loving somebody when somebody loves you back. And
Yes.
so for him, I also think it was very much a moment where it was like, she has demonstrated to me that I'm it for her.
Yeah.
And God damn it, she it for me.
Yeah.
And so however y'all take it, whatever. But I think the giddiness for him is like, for the first time, or if not for the first time in a long time, I feel completely wanted and held and loved and taken care of. And so you ain't got to worry about me because I ain't gonna fuck this up.
Right.
Like,
Right.
I am
Yeah.
not gonna fuck this up.
Yeah. And again, as much as I love Kim, right, it was speaking to what he felt he never got from his mother. So we don't have to knock her down to acknowledge his pain,
Right.
and what he did not get. But as you were just talking, I was hearing the Stevie Wonder song, "For Once in My Life," right? I mean, that's what I was hearing in my head.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Someone who loves me.
Me too.
Kill the song, right? And we knew that yes, exactly. We knew that people loved him. It wasn't that he wasn't loved,
Well, he
but
felt it with her.
Yeah.
It
And
became real.
yes. And so it made total sense that he could then fully submit to this woman, right? Because I think also, it's just like when they say with bullies, right? That when it makes sense that once someone stands up to the bully stands down, right? Because the bully's just so used to people not standing up to them, right? That it takes the one person to be like, sit your ass down somewhere. And then it's like, oh, okay, let me go sit my ass down somewhere because I'm being an idiot.
Right.
It made sense to me as this, like, again, explosively violent, bad temper, out of control, that he had someone that was just like, I embrace all of you. I'm going to take care of you, right? I'm going to nurture you. And he was like, okay, like a little lamb. Okay.
He was interested. He was like, okay.
Yes, like a little lamb.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay. Look, it absolutely started with the pleasure principle, which I think is how it had to be, right? Because I think had it started with some, okay, just on it'd be like, this doesn't sound right? Because not from what we've been told of Armand, but it's starting from this position of pleasure, and the pleasure just being like out of this world, and then seeing the care, and then it's like, oh, okay, so there's physical and mental, emotional benefits to this thing. Okay, because he was just in it for the physical. There's nothing wrong with that. Then he was like, oh, this is deeper than this.
Right.
These
And
peanut butter cookies are delicious.
Right. I think, and that's what had him so hooked, that it wasn't one dimensional, because he had good sex before. Like good sex was not a mystery to him.
That's right.
But the fact that, she was the one in charge, she was the one that proposed it. And, it was intriguing probably on a lot of levels, because somebody hand you a contract.
Right.
Even if he had no intention out the gate of following through with it, I think just the idea of how she approached him had his interest.
Yes.
And then in the reading about the BDSM, being like, is this what the fuck she into? And so you have the subsequent conversation just to hear what the person has to say.
Right.
But, unbeknownst to him, or maybe he knew, I don't know, that when they come back together to discuss it and it's time for him to sign it, he still think he the man. He still think he gonna run this thing.
Right.
And so he don't have no problem putting his name down. I could beat this, you know what I'm saying? Like if something go down, I can go home. But so all of those steps where you could kind of see beyond the page what his mental processing was, so that finally when he sees her naked and she says, this is what I want you to do, And he's holding out. I ain't about to
Yeah.
call you that. I ain't, yeah,
Right.
okay. You think you're not gonna call me that. That's okay. Keep thinking
Right.
that. You know
Right.
what I'm saying?
Right.
Then by the time it's all said and done, he's saying it every other word in every conversation. I
Yes.
was like, stop
Yes.
saying it.
Yes. In public and
They in
private,
church. Good
in
morning,
his
sir.
dream.
Hey,
Right.
sir, you want a plate?
Right.
Then I'm getting ready to get me some more ribs, sir. You want?
Yes.
I wanted to be like, keep this at the crib, Armand. He even text message with it. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Sir, I'm playing the P5 with the kids.
Right.
Little Leland like, sir, what?
Who is that? I'm waiting for him to slip and do it at a family dinner. I'm just waiting for him to slip and call her sir in front of everybody. And for Big South to faint.
Yes. Yes. Because that would be the reaction.
He would absolutely collapse.
Because he can't whoop on him. He can't whoop on him
Right.
because that train has left the station. So yeah, no, it was just so I mean, A House, and this is the first time that we're talking about A House, but I know that we're both fans of her work, and this one was just,
I loved it.
yeah. You know, and I was thinking before we hopped on, you know, I finally started to believe authors like yourself when y'all are like, this is how the character comes to me. The character, you know, the character tells me things and I gotta just do it. I'm writing it, but I'm the instrument of the character. Because yeah, it's stories like this, and there have been others, but it's stories like this where you're like, this is people, right?
Yeah.
This is people. And so, yes, there's the imagination, but there are people like Armand. Like we know that at their heart of hearts, right? Many violent people, many people with, you know, violent tempers are at their core, they're hurt. They're hurt over things that happened to them, and the way that they were treated, and you know, things that were never addressed. I think your point is an excellent one about what is the how for you, because it's fine to tell people to get therapy,
Right.
but it kind of glosses over that finding a good therapist is like finding a good hairstylist, right? And as Black women, that's up there with finding the right man or woman, right? Like
for real.
You know, and with such sensitive issues as your mental and emotional health, having bad experiences with a therapist just further set you back. And you know, now I'm supposed to keep going, I'm supposed to keep trying to find someone, and it's like, well, yeah, because the benefit is there. And it's like, well, this seems like a lot of pain on top of the pain I already have, and agony and frustration and irritation for this mythic relief that you keep talking about, but I got to find the right person to help me get there.
Yeah.
How do I do that? How do I do that?
Yep.
And if I failed the first, second, possibly even third time, why do I want to keep doing that to myself?
Exactly.
So, yeah,
Very
you
well
know,
done.
yeah, because he, again, clearly having that intersection of both, you know, more Ella in the BDSM than anything else, but also the intersection with the therapy, was brilliantly done there. So bravo, A House, bravo.
Are you, what if you were to be in that lifestyle, if you could speculate, are you a dom or a sub?
I think I'm a dom.
Child, I'm a sub all day. Please, somebody else make a decision. God damn.
I think I'm a dom. I'm pretty sure I'm a dom. But
really?
You know what? But here's the thing. And this kind of, you know, and this is where we might rile up some of the church folks, but I think most of our folks are, they ride with us, they understand what we're saying. Exactly. Because, and you and I've talked about this before as well, the whole principle of submission. Because I do agree that there are some people that who they don't have a submissive bone in their body, right? Fine, put them in one category. I think most people are willing to submit, whether they use that word or not, because that word now has a connotation.
Yeah.
But most people are willing to submit to good leadership,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And a good leader does not demand submission necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
They elicit that by virtue of their leadership, I
Right.
think.
Right.
Doesn't mean they never speak about it, but I don't think a good leader has to demand submission, because I think they attract people that are like, I want to follow you
Mm-hmm.
because you are a good leader. And I'm talking professionally, personally, right? And so I think this just goes back to when you have the right lock and key situation.
Mm-hmm.
I think that many of us would be open to a lot of things that at first blush is kind of like, I don't foreclose the possibility of me being a sub, but I think my personality is probably more of a dom.
Mm.
Um, and certainly when I've read it, I'm like, yeah, like that. Yeah. Give me some of that. Give me some of
I'm a
that.
sub all day. I'm a sub all day. I want somebody else to do all the thinking. I am
What?
tired. I
There
am
you
weak and I am going through the storm, through the night. I'm telling you what the song say. Leave me on.
I'm like, okay, we're about to break into Negro spiritual. At this point, we're
Leave
into
me
it.
on. That's what
Do
the
I need
song
to key
say.
up the organ?
To the light. Put me in A flat.
This is
Take my hand.
like
That's what the song say.
the end of the service, right before they do the altar call.
I'm a sub all day. Please, I make so many decisions in my day. I tell so many people what to do in my day. Hunty, what? How high?
But it would need to be the right kind of dom, because in light of, I would think, right, in light of your day life, your life in the daylight, right, you ain't trying to have some foolery
No.
just because he or she is wearing a leather mask and the high heel boots.
Right.
Talking about get on your knees, bitch. Like, I mean, it's like, well, no, hold on. Let's set the scene right, okay? Okay, ain't gonna be too many more bitches just cause. Okay, you got at least do some ass smacking and some stroking before we start throwing out the bitches. You gotta earn that. Right. So again, it goes back
These are facts.
It goes back to leadership, right? It goes back to leadership.
This is
like,
true.
wait,
You have to have a good dom.
come
So
on now.
I'm on Kink Talk. So I don't live any kink in my life, but I'm on Kink Talk. So I'm interested in. It started with, oddly enough, it started when I was writing Von Griffin and Dallas.
Excuse
I
me.
was looking at poly stuff.
Can
on
you
TikTok.
please clarify what Kink Talk is, instead of assuming that
Okay,
I and everyone else know exactly what you mean? I mean, really.
So on TikToks, there are various talks. So there's Black Talk, Kink Talk, Poly Talk,
Okay.
ex-Mormon Talk, there's Cook Talk, Cooking Talk, Black Cooking Talk, whatever, Black Talk, whatever. So on TikTok, there are a bunch of different talks. So I'm on Kink Talk. It's because when I was writing Make Me Beg,
don't use that as an excuse, but
I'm
go
serious.
on ahead. Y'all hear this, right, y'all? She's like, it's not because I'm a freak. It's because, when I was writing this book, I needed.
No, now I do some things. I just don't do that particular thing. So we can have another story time that ain't got nothing to do with why I don't believe in God no more.
Lord have mercy.
Anyway, so, but I was doing some research about poly stuff because I told y'all that they're still talking to me. So I was doing some poly research, and then when I was trying to figure out how to write a threesome, because that's my first threesome, but on Kink Talk, there are like black, and I'm on Black Kink Talk too. So I found the Black kinky people they are brats, and they have all these other names for things that they do. And one of the things that they talk about is like what it means to be a good dom, and like what are the requirements and how much responsibility it is. And they talk about the signs of bad doms. And so, like, for example, we don't use a safe word. I just know my sub. Or a dom that so you can be sub, you can be slave, you can be like, there's a lot of different names for the subordinate one.
Okay.
And so one is another like sign that you would look out for is a dom that would require you to answer to a name that you're uncomfortable with.
Mm.
And so there's a Black woman, she looks to be like maybe in her late 40s, who is a dom, but to her husband she's a sub, but when she makes money at it she's a dom. And
Okay.
so she talks about like kind of switching in and out of that headspace depending on what she needs to do, and how sometimes when she comes back from her dom appointments, they will do a scene with her as a sub to kind of like balance and regulate her energy. And so
Interesting.
that's why I think that I am a sub, because that like rang true to me. Like, you know, once you get tired of being in charge, you don't want to
Yeah.
be in charge no more.
Yeah.
And so when you come home and you don't also have to think about dinner, clothes, who changed the sheets, did so and so take the chicken out, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
like this idea that coming home, you to reintegrate, right, the other parts of yourself, and to kind of come out of that place of being in charge,
Mm-hmm.
that this other posture will sort of help you with that. So I was like, see, that's, I can get into that. Now some other things I can't, because you're not about to hit me. That's not what oh no, no. I don't want nobody to be under the illusion.
That was
But
not in the contract.
no, that ain't gonna be in mine. You got to keep them kind of hands to yourself. But that's why I think I would be a sub, because
Interesting.
that
Interesting.
really was like that triggered, that turned the light on for me. I said, okay.
But see, so this has been very illuminating, and I feel like I've seen yet another side of you that I'm titillated and a little afraid. But anyway, so but it makes me think of, just in thinking on relationships, right? And my husband would occasionally say to me, if a friend was complaining about his or her, his girlfriend or wife that doesn't do certain things, or frigid in bed, or whatever the case may be, and I would say, well, maybe he doesn't bring that out of her.
Now you're talking. You having
right?
a conversation by yourself right now. That's it.
Yeah, right. So it's and I would, more than once I've said that when he's made that comment about these friends, because I'm like, the reality is there are things that I've done with my husband that I didn't do with any other partner, right? That he brought
right.
those things out of me.
Mm-hmm.
It lock and key though, lock and key. Just because you can make me wet or whatever it is,
right,
does not mean I'm letting you do anal, right?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
That's another level of things. And so again, kind of going back to this, right? You said something about, that Armand had a lot of sex. Yes, exactly. Right. And I think he alluded to, in his mind, he's thinking, and he calls the girl by name, of he had done some stuff with her, but had never got, but again, it was lock and key. So for someone who had been there, done that in terms of, sexed a whole lot of women and done a whole lot of stuff. And now it was like, all right. But again, had Ella, I think, come out the gate with the ball gag and all, I think he would have been like, whoa, hey.
Everybody all right?
Yeah, time out. And I have to believe that she understood that. And I think, when I reflect on Dom, BDSM as it has been portrayed in a number of fiction books, like that is a tenet, right, of the Dom, like really being thoughtful and paying attention to the sub, and what works, what is not going to work, and not starting off on high energy or whatever the case may be, unless they perceive that is appropriate for that person, right? But I think going back to your point about the responsibility and understanding that this is more than just right now I get to just beat the hell out of you for my pleasure,
right
just deal with it, because this is about pleasing me, which also just goes back to tying to submission in the non-BDSM sense, right? That men who like to toss around that scripture, the half of the scripture, and we talked about that before, and it's like, wait, hold on, did you forget the other part? Oh, okay. And are you leading such that right? Are you handling,
do you make me want to follow
business, right?
Are you going into a ravine?
Right. Right. It's like, are you going off the cliff?
Are
You're
you
jumping
going off
off
the
the bridge.
cliff? Because no, I'm not following
Wait,
you over there.
are you jumping off the bridge? Because my mama told me
Exactly.
that just because I see Susie jump off the bridge don't mean that I go jump off the bridge, because me and Susie ain't got the same brain, and I got to
Absolutely
think
right.
for myself. So
Absolutely
your
right.
name ain't Susie, but you Susie in this context. So so it's just,
You're absolutely right.
coming back to that, and I think coming back to the freak stuff, and just all of that. And I loved it. And I loved liberating Ella from this, the princess. Yeah, because we all got to grow up. We all have
Yeah.
to grow up, right? We don't stay little kitties. And this was a beautiful way, while I was sorry that Ella went through what she went through, I thought this was a beautiful way to position Ella as grown woman Ella, like
Yeah.
fully credible, fully formed, where the reader could say, yeah, no, this is a woman here. This ain't no little girl
Yeah.
no more. No, no,
Yeah.
no.
And
And
I
whether
love, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say the way she handled herself in the bedroom and outside of the bedroom.
Mm-hmm. And I love when authors think of things that I would not have thought of. And that happened here in a couple places.
Mm-hmm.
So it happened when she had Ella on a reality show with her boyfriend.
Yes.
Which I would not have. She had done the reality show with her mom, but I would not have put her in another reality show.
Yeah.
But when you think about the life of like young Black woman influencers,
yes,
especially those who have famous parents or are already famous adjacent, somebody would, the Hollywood true story, they would have absolutely, especially, and she's with another celebrity. So it's like Iman Schubert and Tiana Taylor got a show. And all of the love and hip hops and the tattoo and hip hop and the whatever, like the basketball and hip hop, all of it. It's so true that someone would have seen her follower count on Instagram, or someone would have known that little Ella was all grown up, and absolutely they approached him, and then he made her do it. But that would have completely been in her sphere. And even the idea of them, portraying this perfect couple and her feeling the pressure after a life in the public eye. Of feeling responsible for putting that face on, not only for herself, but for her mother and for her father's reputations. Like she really put herself in that headspace in a way that it probably would not have occurred to me to do. And I'm gonna tell you, she wrote the book. Like that's all I would tell you, is that she really did the damn thing, because it was just really like perfectly of a piece with some of those elements.
And Ella having to again learn the hard way that being a pleaser can have dire consequences, right? Because when she flashes back and he's like, come on, when Jackson's like, come on, do this for me, do it. And she's, she loves him. She's tired of doing it, doesn't really want to do it, but like hears him and it's like, okay, fine. Right. Not really wanting to say no. And then, once things start going off the rails, just being like, how did I get here? And how do I get out of this? And then, what was interesting is that when she teed up that he had killed himself in front of her, I was like, whoa, but we didn't know how yet. I was like, whoa, did he blow his brains out? Like
me too.
Remember Monica had a boyfriend that killed himself in front of her. And I was like, whoa, where is this going? Is this going to be like he pulled the trigger in front of her? So that was one of those things, right, where the fact that he overdosed and she was in the apartment with a dead body all night, like that was, to your point about some of these things that you would have never thought about. Well, I'm not an author, so I wouldn't have thought about it, but I was like, okay. Because that was an interesting, there were just a number of ways that could have been done. And I thought that was an interesting way to do it, as a creative way to do it, because it wasn't the run of the mill, he played with the gun and the gun went off, or, went and got himself shot or stabbed, in a fight or something, he overdosed on the pills. She didn't know it till the next morning.
Right. And it was the celebrity accident. Because how many celebrities have we lost, even some very recently, from Michael K. Williams to Michael Jackson, of course,
Yeah.
Prince. They were Heath Ledger. That
Yeah.
and of course some more recently that I can't Philip Seymour Hoffman,
Yes.
that I can't recall, but it is definitely the celebrity accident
Yeah.
to think that you have it under control.
Yep.
You know your limits. You know yourself, just like a fool drunk driver, that think that they know how tipsy they am, and I know how to drive drunk, and I'm good. Really seeing how much you really are playing with fire.
Yeah. And she really brought to life through Ella that sense of being trapped.
Yep.
Right. Because I
Mm-hmm.
think that sometimes when the celebrities, and I think particularly women, because society's harder on women in general,
Yeah.
right? When they talk about being trapped, and, if I reflect on, Trevor Noah's recent comments about what has been going on, right, with Kanye, Kim,
Yeah.
and Pete, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Trevor making the point that, like, she is, this incredible wealthy woman, probably right now the most famous woman in the world,
Mm-hmm.
and she can't get her ex-husband to leave her alone.
Yep.
And he's like, this is what regular women go through every day,
Yep.
right? And just kind of making that contrast. And so
Yep.
I say that to say that with Ella, I thought A House did a magnificent job of like bringing that despair of being trapped,
Yes.
because with
Yes.
her, she was trapped by the memory and the image, right?
Yes.
That the image that they had created did not die with him. And
Yep.
2 years later, people are still expecting her to basically walk around like the grieving widow, as if
Exactly.
she died with him,
Exactly.
and
And
feeling the
how
pressure of that, and
right.
not wanting to destroy his legacy
Yep.
by telling the truth.
Yep. And how misguided public perception can really
Yes.
be.
Yes.
And to your point, just because she is the one who remains, she is the one that takes the blame.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, even to your point, like just even that little layer on top of it, and then how crazy people are over social media,
Yes. Yes.
and taking matters into their own hands. And I mean, I'm gonna tell you, she wrote the book. I don't know if you
Yes.
know it.
Yeah. No, that's
but
real though.
she,
That's real.
but
The,
she
the, the
wrote the
alcohol in the
book.
face, and like
Yes.
insane, right? Insane,
Yes.
but and yet and absolutely real, because
Mm-hmm.
people take it to another level,
Mm-hmm.
and it evokes that, age old conversation of who's responsible. It would be with music, and now obviously the conversations revolving around social media, but it's like,
Yep.
who's responsible? If you say, well, you should be watching what your kids are consuming. Absolutely. And yet you have adults
Right.
that are
That
legally,
can't get themselves together.
right,
Correct.
legally, according
Correct.
to the law, who are adults who do, these horrible things in the name
Yes.
of protecting or defending the honor of a celebrity that they don't know, that they've never
Thank
met,
you. Thank you.
that wouldn't know them from a hole in the wall.
Thank
So
you.
that was, yes, it was fiction, but that's real, because
Yep.
that's happening,
Yep. Today.
going back to Kim saying to Kanye, like, you're creating a situation where someone's going to hurt Pete, and him being like, well, no, it's my art. It's my art. Well, if you don't have a stadium of seats
Seats.
immediately.
Absolutely.
So, she definitely wrote the book. She
She
wrote the
wrote the
book.
book.
Woo, let me
Yeah.
just see
Yeah, I
any
gotta go back
actual
through and see what
my
else is there.
my
Anything
tidbits.
else?
I so enjoyed, and I know I touched on it before, the dynamic between him, Little Leland, and Layla, but I
Yes.
so enjoyed that banter
Yeah.
between the three of them,
And
and
him
how,
realizing that he could have family with them.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes. And them being like, well, yeah, I mean, to the point where, so initially they were using Leland to beat him, and then they started using his avatar to beat him, which was hysterical. He's like, how are y'all beating me playing as
With
me? And
me.
they were like, duh, because
Right.
we are. Like, it is what it is. Like, now take this ass whipping like a man and deal with
Exactly.
it. But that was a very precious way. And I thought, again, going back to things that had not changed, that his relationship with Kim, I thought it was appropriate for it to be where it was, right? It was
Mm-hmm.
not completely healed. It was he apologizes again, and you sense that they are on their way to a better place.
Mm-hmm.
But for the past almost 9 years, right, they had been status quo, which
Yeah.
was distant, you know,
Well, I
polite
wonder.
ish.
Yeah, I wonder only because so we got like a couple different messages. Her offering the cottage to him,
Hmm.
but also him either having never been to the house or either maybe having not spent time there when Leland was there, but it was something about he was not one to frequent their house.
Yes.
So that's why I was like, well, maybe he been baby stepping in and out. Like he'll go to lunch with her, but he won't go over Leland house, or he'll, meet her somewhere or go some, you know what I mean? That's kind of what I thought, but I don't know. What do you think?
That was my suspicion as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it was clear that he didn't really engage with the kids,
Yeah.
hadn't really been around them. I and remember now he was no longer playing in St. Louis,
Right.
so
True, true,
he's
true, true, true.
spending a lot of time on the road anyway. So I assumed it was probably something like maybe when he came to town to play, maybe they met up for dinner at a
Yeah.
restaurant and that was the extent of it. And then they went their separate ways.
Yeah. And you could do 10 years like that easy.
Exactly. Easy,
Mm-hmm.
easy peasy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Which would make sense then if he's not around, that he was not around his brothers and sister
Yeah.
or his mother's husband.
Yeah.
And that was
Yeah.
perfectly fine. Right. And that was perfectly fine.
What did you think about his dad dying? His dad's family expecting some money from him, and then him showing up on his doorstep saying, I need you to do what you do.
Yeah, that was an interesting twist, because I was like, huh, okay. First of all, and I wasn't gonna like fact check, but I was like, technically mama could have just gotten them, right? But okay, fine, whatever. But it was her pressing him to pay for the funeral. And unfortunately, I thought that was real, although
Yeah.
it was just one of those like, are you kidding me, lady? Are you like, you
Right.
got the audacity
Right.
to
For
go
sure.
there, right? It's like, how about just find another way to get him out the morgue and then you figure it out, because there's been no relationship.
Yeah.
So to come out of the woodwork and be like, well, you should, not only help me get him out of the morgue, which maybe less. I didn't think that was unreasonable if she was being told that was the only way she could get him out. But it was like, and of course you'll pay for it. And I was like,
Where
whoa,
you hear that
we
at?
well, I was like, we went from like one to zebra, huh?
Who told you I'm gonna pay for that?
I was like, what? One has nothing to do with the other. What are we talking about? But you could see it made perfect sense to me that would send him into a potential tailspin
Yeah.
where he could have done something just horrifically destructive
Yeah.
or ended up on Ella's doorstep, like, please.
Yeah, because it made him a she intended to use him.
Yeah.
And so it took away his humanity
Mm-hmm.
of having his father die, albeit a man he did not want a relationship with and never
Yeah.
had a relationship with. But
Yeah.
there can be, not always, but there can be a certain level of grief with that too.
Yes.
And as he was dealing with his identity issues, because I think that was a lot of what Armand was dealing with.
Yes.
And we see that in his confusion about his role and relationship with his mother. And so it was just a lot going on for them,
Yeah.
for her to then come and demand that and take from him whatever sense of love and belonging that was growing with
Yeah.
Ella and with his siblings, for her to try unsuccessfully to kind of snatch that away by suddenly just making him a bank account.
But I appreciate it, because look, had A House written it that he had a tailspin and Ella's the one that brings him out of it afterwards,
Yeah.
okay, we would have been fine with that, right? But the fact that he went straight to her, just, it was one more building block in his beautiful journey, I thought. Because it could have gone that way, right? It could have been like, it could have been the setback. And instead, he went right to the place
Yep.
where he was safe. Do not
Yep.
pass go, right? He
Yep.
went right to the place that he knew was safe for him,
Yep.
as opposed to something he did something horrible, and then went to his safe place. Like, oh, I messed up.
And that she didn't deny him that, because based on the person and how well you know them and what's appropriate, like there are some people that won't do scenes when a person is in that
Mm,
condition,
mm-hmm,
because it takes a controlled headspace
mm-hmm,
for some people.
mm-hmm.
But she didn't deny him that. And I think that was one of the instances where she let him be in control.
Yes, yes.
Which, and they talked about that, which was another element, that there are times that even when we're doing this Dom sub thing, I will grant you more leadership because that's what you need.
Mm.
But it just really like I when I was reading that scene, I was thinking about Lex and Ezra. He would have never done a scene with her when she was in that condition. And in fact, I think once or twice she tried, either she was
Yes,
drunk or angry
yes.
or whatever, and he was like, hell no.
Yeah,
So here again, the other side of the coin of, for him in that moment, he needed to be able to give it up,
yeah,
right? To give up being strong, to give up being in charge, to give up being toxically masculine,
yeah,
and
yeah,
to just kind of enter a space where he could just let whatever happened to him happen to him,
yeah.
but in a space that he knew it was going to be safe, and that, it was going to be pleasurable, and it was going to be from love. Because I think too, that might be where she tells him that she loves him for the first time, but I'm
It,
not sure.
yeah.
If not the first time, it was like one of the first times.
Yes, yes. And again, it goes back to, it happened the way it needed to happen, because queer look, we would have accepted if there hadn't been a scene and he just showed up and he needed to just put his face in her bosom and cry, right? But also, in light of the dynamic that was building between this couple, it made perfect sense that it was in a BDSM scene, right? And it didn't feel like, because we were getting, I don't want to say like a kinder, gentler type of BDSM, right? But it's like it was like a loving BDSM, right? Like it just, where it was, yes, it was about the pleasure, but I feel like this was one of the times, and as I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about it, because all of the BDSM books fiction books that I've read have been written by women, right? But it is typically, I am trying to call to mind another one where the woman was the dom. And I feel like there's been another one, but I can't call it to mind right now. But I feel like this one, there was that true feminine care and that loving touch woven through every aspect of the BDSM. Yeah, you know what? One of CCJ's books, one of the Clark brothers, but even that, like, he was going there to have someone smack the hell out of him. So he wasn't looking for, he was looking for like, no, I want you to just smack the hell out of me.
Right.
So it was different dynamic,
right.
But it made it feel very credible. And it also made it feel very, for as much or as little as we had been told about Ella up to this point, I felt like that was also seemed to be very much in harmony with who I think we thought Ella was. Just now with this grown and sexy side, and it's like, oh, right. It made sense that Ella wouldn't be, it made sense to me that Ella would have been a kinder, loving dom. If that makes any sense at all, right? Like, I was like, this is the gentle dom version.
The kinder, gentler domination.
Yes, yes, yes. What did you think about the reveal of Ella's paternity?
I didn't see it coming, but I think everything else had already bowled me over, that it didn't hit like a dun dun dun, you know what I mean? But it makes sense because she kind of alludes to it with her and her friend who slipped up with each other one night, and then he was like, "Oh, I don't like vaginas since I've been in yours." But
Yes, Carlos. He was like,
Carlos.
okay, thank you for the honesty.
But it makes sense that her, lifelong friend, whatever, drunken. I get it. But it didn't change. I think because we already knew she wasn't his, that it didn't bother
Right.
me who she was, because he, like she said, my daddy is Everett.
Yes, yes. So I thought, yeah, I agree with you. It didn't hit like the bomb, and it wasn't intended to, right? Because we already knew, right,
Right.
that he was not the daddy. That was the bomb. That it was like, dun, dun, right, and
Mm-hmm.
we got that and Let Me Love You. But I assumed it was the bodyguard, right? I assumed it was, or whatever he
Oh,
thought it was, that he when he,
okay.
because I think,
Yeah, he
Big
does
South
have,
said something like
yes.
that he assumed it was the bodyguard. He didn't know for sure, but he assumed it was the bodyguard. So that's why I was kind of like, oh, well, this is an
Mm.
interesting little, it was like an after dinner mint, right? It was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, look at this little Andy's candies that we've been given after our delicious meal here, because it didn't have to be her, flamboyant, openly gay
Yeah, yeah,
friend,
yeah, yeah.
right? Who had slipped up and told her during a drunken phone call, and
Right.
who had always been in her life by virtue of this friendship, right? She didn't have to give us that, right? And again, I'm assuming that's how it came to her and whatnot. But I just thought that was an extra layer that I appreciated, because
Mm-hmm.
if she had just left it at the bodyguard,
Right.
and Ella knew it was the bodyguard, who's no longer in the picture anyway, and it doesn't matter, I think we all would have been perfectly fine with that.
Yeah.
The fact, and it did not add any, and it didn't add or take anything away from the state of the relationship with Esther, which we all understood why it was shit, why it should stay shit, why Esther ain't shit, so on and so forth. So I appreciated A House that, even with something that was not, that candidly we might have all considered to be resolved, right?
Mm-hmm.
That she gave this extra little dun, dun, right, little at the end, a couple of notes at the end, right? Because it wasn't the symphony.
Right. But I think also the thing that made it good and kind of fit with where we were going is that it continued to explain or support why she wanted nothing to do with her mother.
Yes, yes.
You picked this person that had been an outsized part of your life and then my life. And I think it makes it worse that he wasn't the quote unquote help. You know what I mean? Like, you knew I was going to have to be around this man for years and years to come, that he would be an uncle to me or a godfather or whatever. And all these years, you got this man sitting across from me and you never said a word. And so I think it really illustrates how much she sees her mother for who she is.
Yeah.
And for that reason is saying, listen, you birthed me. We had a good 11-year run.
Right. We had a decent run.
We had a decent run. Let's go ahead and just exist in the world together. God bless you.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, but also so that's fair. But also you saw, right, and maybe it's one or two texts, right?
Yeah.
Where Esther is doing things like the body shaming.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it's like,
Yep.
you just haven't learned your lesson, huh?
At all.
Because things like that, people have come around, things like that. Let me be clear. The paternity piece of things, right? Are arguably, there could have been a come to Jesus moment of, we've all made peace with it, and so on and so forth, right? Even the acrimony between Esther, Joe, Big South, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Families have made their way through worse and kind of been like, we found peace for the sake of this child, and we're not going to continue to openly hate each other anymore, right? But that was still in play, even though there was no contact anymore, because now Ella was grown and Ella wanted nothing to do with her mother.
Right.
So it was just both Esther continuing to be Esther with the critical comments,
Mm-hmm.
and then also Ella being armed with the knowledge of who her father is, and being like, you were trying to manipulate my father all these years while you had my biological sperm donor in the picture all these
Right.
years.
Right.
Like how
Staring
dare
me right in the
like
face.
how dare you? Like
Mm-hmm.
you ain't shit. So but to your point, let's just exist on the planet together and
Right.
go forth and you know,
That's all we need to do.
yeah,
Go your
we
own way.
we need have nothing to do with each other anymore.
You
What did
can
you
go,
think
yeah. Oh,
what
well, I'm
did you
sorry.
think about that's a good song. About the fact that Joe knew about Jackson's abuse.
I bought it too. And because
Yeah.
in Joe Nim book, I don't know the name of it, but
Let
Joe
me
and Big
love you.
South books, Let Me Love You. Um, she all her stuff is on display. The man put out the, I mean, would Esther worked with his current wife, who he wishes
Yeah.
that she was his ex, to put
Yeah.
out the revenge porn. That he came and got beat up
Yes.
at
The hip
the
hop
awards
awards. Hmm.
and at the foundation when he first finds out that they're
Yes.
together. And so
Yes.
very publicly, and I'm sure Ella grew to learn also privately, she lived, experienced and overcame being abused. And so it made perfect sense to me that Ella would go to her also because we don't see who else Ella's support system is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if when you're, her friend, as wonderful as Carlos was, Carlos ain't made for everything.
Right. Right.
And she knows she can't go to her Aunt Cat.
Right.
She knows she can't go, so like there really was what's their aunt's name that calls him Tick?
Um. Oh
I
God,
can't
why am I
think. Is it
blanking on her name?
does it start with an E? Anyway, I'm wanting it to start with an E, but I
Because
don't
he's
know.
named after Everline.
Yes, 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 yes. Thank
Everline.
you.
On Ever.
Yes,
They
on
call her on
Ever.
Ever.
And
Yes.
so, of the places that she could go, it's real limited. Joe is literally the only one. Because I think even if she told Bridget to be trying to kill a man, he already dead.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so or Sage. I think Sage would have snitched.
Yeah.
So, I got it. And she had, Joe having her initial, just kind of emotions about being rejected by her. But
Yeah.
the moment that was resolved, she embraced her with open arms. And so I
Yes.
think Joe probably feels more like a mom,
Yeah.
honestly, than Esther does.
Well, yes. And of course, I thought it was an interesting situation because someone had posted in one of the groups and they were asking about it in the context of did anybody know a story that was similar to this issue, but someone had posted it was like a tweet, a woman saying that she had just learned man was engaged and his 16-year-old daughter, he just found out that his fiance took his 16-year-old daughter to go have an abortion.
Ooh, okay.
And he canceled the wedding and
No,
ended
really?
the engagement.
That's
And
dumb.
and so the reason it was in Hopeful Heartbreakers, the
Okay.
person who shared the post was like, does anybody know a book with a plot line like this? And of
Hmm.
course, many of us bypassed all of that and was like, oh my God, like focused on the scenario of, who was right, who was wrong, and truly being between a rock and a hard place because, a number of us were like, what kind of situation is that of all the people she would go to, it would be the father's
Right.
fiance
Yep, yep,
that
yep.
she would go to, right?
Hmm.
And the fiance being in this situation where you have this 16-year-old about to be somebody's mama if a different choice isn't made,
Yes,
and yet
yes.
this is your fiance's daughter and what to do. And there were, obviously very strong opinions on both sides of things, but it made me think of the Joe situation because I'm like, how that plays out. I mean, obviously South would forgive, but to know, depending on when Joe knew, to have not said anything.
Yeah.
If Joe found out after the fact, after he was already dead, that's one thing. If Joe knew when it was happening, right?
Really? That
I
would
think
bother you?
I think that would bother me
Okay.
because it would just be like there had to have been an option better than keeping silent.
So
As what I
I'm
think I would have said, right? I think I
right.
would have said there had to have been an option that was other than keeping silent and keeping her confidence and leaving it at that and letting her navigate her own way out of it.
So I have in mind to write a story. I'm gonna tell it now because I ain't no telling if I'm gonna write it or not. I don't know. We hope so, but it don't matter because I'm just gonna give y'all the bones. I ain't gonna put no meat on it. So there's Writer's Block. That's the Writing Love series. There's a book that's right after that that's gonna be called Creative Differences, and it's gonna be about a woman and an editor. And then the last one I'm gonna call Epilogue. And one of the elements, so the last one, she's a Black romance author. She grown. She been in the game longest, the some of the women that, any name that you might call that was around in the 90s. She been in the game for a long time. She grown. And it is a second chance romance for her and a high school sweetheart, I think. These details are loose. Don't hold me to it. But one of the plot points in the story is going to be that's going to show up really early is that her daughter is in an abusive relationship. And when she meets this high school sweetheart, eventually they start talking and they get into kids and ex-wives and ex-husbands and alimony and whatever. And one of the things he asks her is why. And she says to him, I have banged my head up against that wall one too many times. And the reality is, even if Joe, there's nothing anybody could do to make her leave that man before she was ready.
I understand. No, I understand that. I fully understand that. But does that absolve Joe if she knew
Yes,
in real time from not saying anything to this child's father?
I say yes.
Hmm.
We don't have any children, but for people that do, I can tell you specifically about a good friend of mine that has a daughter and she's just into pre-puberty. And he feels so much ownership over her that, which rightly so, that's her daughter, his baby girl, whatever. But one of the things that his wife is constantly telling him is, you think she belongs to you, but she doesn't. And at a certain point in time, she's going to make a decision that doesn't suit you. And try as you might, there's nothing you can do about it.
I
And
understand
so
that as well.
For Joe, like why does she need to tell him? Other than the fact that that's his daughter. But that woman, she's an adult. And so he doesn't have any more ownership over her. He may think or wish he still has a responsibility to protect her, but in the eyes of the law, if she rob a bank, she going to jail, not him. And so to me, Joe's loyalty and Joe's sense of responsibility is to Ella. Now, if I'm Joe, though, I'm saying we need a plan. We got to have a burner phone. We got to have a burner account. Like maybe I'm going up there and I'm talking to him and saying, like, I know you and I see you, and if some shit happened to her, it's gonna be me who's coming to you. Like I'm not doing nothing, but I don't know if I'm telling her dad.
I hear everything you're saying, and I agree with everything you're saying, because I am not saying I'm not saying tell Big South for purposes of him then being able to act on that. I'm saying that I think as between a husband and a wife, that is a very difficult conversation to explain why you kept me in the dark about that.
I get it. I mean, it's true.
And because it's not about whether or not me knowing would have changed what happened. It's you were privy to some information about the health and safety of my child, and you did not share that with me. It's different if you didn't know, but you were made aware that my child's health and safety was in jeopardy, and you didn't tell me this. Because if this were a completely different book, right, and a different scenario, and Jackson ends up killing Ella,
right, which could have happened.
I don't know how Joe or anyone else who kept that information to themselves deals with the guilt and wondering the what if, recognizing that it may not have made a difference, but that they kept silent.
So
I
I
yeah,
so
that's tough for me.
the reason why I have the perspective that I do on this too is it's not from not from a place of like it's not from the side of the parent. It's I'm thinking from the side of the therapist or the social worker or the person that is like statistically it don't matter who know. But I
That's
understand
fine.
what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I think for me, and also just like yeah, I think that's why for me I'm standing where I'm
I
standing.
hear you, but you're also, I mean, that's coming from the professional
Yeah,
context, right? Where in some of those instances, there's also a legal prohibition
yeah.
on saying anything, right? Because there's patient,
Well,
doctor
and
patient confidentiality or,
yes.
so on and so forth.
You
So
know why else? I think the reason why I'm so staunch in terms of like, I don't know that I would have told him because I think when people say, why didn't you tell me? You're assuming that me telling you would have been good for me. Like you're assuming that, you know, because he wasn't going to know it and not do anything. And so now I'm humiliated. I already wasn't telling you because I was embarrassed, but now I'm humiliated. And now my dad is on the news because he didn't kill the man with his bare hands in the middle of the street.
I get
And
it.
so
I
like
get it.
the other part of it is like when people say, I wanted to know, you should have told me, you're assuming that telling you feels good to me. You're
I get it.
assuming that telling you is a good thing because it
I,
might not be.
no, I get it. And look, I think that if we're talking about I saw your spouse cheating on you, I agree with you wholeheartedly.
No, tell me. No, no,
Yeah,
no. Let's just let tell me.
but I'm saying, but although there are women who, whether they would say it that way or not, that's the ultimate sentiment, right? Like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to know, right? And so you didn't
Mm-hmm.
help me by telling me this.
Right.
You now put it in my face, and now I know that you know.
Right. I was artfully ignoring
Yes,
it.
I view this as a different kettle of fish because
Okay.
we're talking about physical health and safety,
Mm-hmm.
right? That was in danger. Not just a decision you don't agree with, a situation you'd rather them not be in. Like, particularly once he was putting hands on her, I mean, the emotional abuse was horrific
Bad
enough, but
enough.
once
Yeah.
he was hitting her, now her physical safety is in danger.
Yeah.
That to me is not something, whatever the person then does with it is one thing, but I would not want in my conscience that I saw that and I said nothing.
Mm.
Um, because I would be the type of person, oh, and all we can do, right, is speak from our perspective. I would
Mm-hmm.
be the type of person that I would walk around with the guilt of wondering what might have happened if I had said something. Even if I logically understand it may not have changed anything, but
Yeah.
having held that information and kept it to myself, that's something that would eat me alive, guilt
Mm.
wise, if things went horrifically wrong.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And particularly when you're talking about a husband and a wife, like, now we're not talking about a
That does
neighbor,
complicate it. That
right? We're not
complicates it.
talking about like the person that I see at the community center, on Saturdays when we do gym jammers. We're talking about my
Yeah,
spouse.
that complicates because we have to, and that's why honestly, if I was Joe, I would never tell him that I knew. He would never know that I knew. That would have to come out some other way.
That's probably right. Although that's a whole other, right. Like, woo,
I'm a
it's like,
secret
what?
keeper.
Right, right. Like, that is one of those, you're gonna have to just carry that to your grave, because you're
Yeah.
trying to explain.
And he wouldn't understand.
No, he wouldn't understand. He wouldn't understand.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost I'd rather be in the position of explaining to Ella why I violated her confidence in
Mm,
that
okay.
situation than
Mm-hmm.
explaining to my husband why I kept the secret,
Mm-hmm.
because she was being physically hurt. I think an abortion is something different, where it's like you take them to the right facility that is tried and true. It's now been done for decades, and so while there can always be complications, I better understand that. But
Mm-hmm.
knowing that my daughter's being beat on, because all it takes is the wrong hit, right? All it
It's
takes
true.
is the wrong hit. Even if it wasn't intended to kill, all it takes is the wrong hit. And it's like, wait, you
Yeah.
knew this was going on and you said nothing? And look, I candidly, I'm glad that A House left that deliberately, because it wasn't clear to me when Joe knew. Like, she says that Joe knew, but it
Well,
wasn't
and
clear
we
to
also
me.
don't see her tell south. He finds out another way.
Yes, he finds out another way. He
Yeah.
might find out from the interview.
He did. I think, I
Yeah.
think that's how he
Yeah.
finds out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so even then, she herself doesn't, at least we don't see her say, hey, you gonna see something on
Right.
TV in a couple days.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he just turns on the TV and it's there. And so
Yeah.
I think that also speaks to, how do you tell your father that you let a man beat on you?
Yeah.
Especially a father that you know loves you more than the son.
And
so
this is one of the father's artists who he held in
right.
high regard.
Yes.
Yeah.
And who he promoted you all being together. And so
Yeah.
that's another reason why, if I was Joe, I wouldn't have told, because the responsibility that he would have felt for something that had nothing to do with him would have also ate him up, whether
That's
something
fair.
happened to her or not.
But for me, I would have rather, let's just do whatever intervention you may try, and at least be able to say I tried.
Well, now y'all know AG is a snitch.
Yes. Listen.
And I'm gonna keep your secret.
I've never, ever claimed to be anything. Honey, I'm not jeopardizing my bar license, my career, my peace of mind. No, we don't do that. We don't do that. Professional article of ethics and responsibility, honey.
Well, I'm keeping your secret. So if y'all got something, y'all tell me. Y'all tell HP. Don't tell Attorney General.
Whatever. I stand.
Oh my gosh.
That.
Is there anything else we need to go over?
I don't think so. I think we've gushed over it.
Yeah.
It was worth the wait.
It was worth the wait.
Absolutely delivered.
Absolutely.
And I remember when she told us he was going to be book 3, and book 3 seemed so far away, because at the time Dravion's book wasn't even out yet, and it was like, book 3, like, so far away. And she just delivered. She gave us the moon, the heavens, the moon, and the stars. Just so brilliantly done.
Yeah, it was definitely like, it was a story I didn't know I needed.
Yeah.
I would not have gone this direction. I'm telling you, this is like Joan and Fanny to me. Like, because when I was reading it, the first 30%, I could have bet money where she was going. I had already written the rest of the book in my mind. And then here come that left hook. I said, oh.
So now we need to get a question to A House of did somebody, did
a beta reader tip their hand?
Right. Did somebody, send her a DM, was like, oh, I know where this is going to go. I got something for your ass. I got something for you.
Right. Because it was definitely like, I was like, now how did we get here? But it was so worth it. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I don't think I have anything else. I'm kind of scanning through the rest of the book.
No, just I'm looking forward to going back to it again, and
me too.
Kind of experiencing it, because I like scarfed it down, right?
I did too.
And then in preparation for today, it was like kind of skimming through and really making sure that I was touching on things that hit home for me. But I look forward to, like, now that I know what happens, going back on the ride again, like, oh yeah.
And
this
I
is
will
great.
tell you, I kind of want another book of them.
Look at you.
I do. And this is rare for me. Sometimes, like, if I read a book and I finish with the book, I'm okay that that's where the book ends. Mm-hmm. But very recently, between Lady Nisha and the Carters, who I cannot get enough of, I can read them books every night.
Yes.
And this story, I'm like, I want more from them. And of course, the Black series, but everyone knows how I feel about that. But I want more from them. I don't know how I want to see them, but I kept going back and like reading different sections and different scenes because I am not through with them. I hope she's not through with them in some kind of
Listen,
way.
for all we know, Nat might end up getting her own story, which would really be a like, Lord, Natalie, not roar like a
Or
lion,
you know how she did that
girl.
one. You know
Lord.
how she did that one that was just like little snippets of people having scenes.
Yes,
Like
yes.
even if they come back in something that's 10
Yeah,
pages, you know.
yeah,
But I
yeah.
just fell so deeply in love with them. And I was trying to think, I don't think we're going to get any more McLean activity. But if there are more cyclones, we may run into the McLean family. But is this it?
I Yeah, it's a good question. I think this may be it. Because certainly
Yeah.
even, we saw a little bit of the McLeans in the first Romeo because that is their
Okay.
cousin.
Okay.
Nadia is Unk's daughter. Uh,
Okay.
you know who people keep asking for lunch meat's story. They're like, where can lunch meat get his
Lunch meat,
story?
or you know who else has been with us the whole time? Oba, the bodyguard.
Oba, but was it? I thought Oba was married.
Oh, he might be.
I thought Oba was married because remember with Sage, it was the
Yes.
bodyguards were married.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's why they
Yes.
weren't an
Yes.
option. But but lunch meat, we'll see if the gods shine down and give lunch meat. So I love when Unc was like, "Baby girl, what's this about you dating somebody named Booger?
I was like, why is this
You
happening at the
having a
end of
baby
this
by a
book?
man named Booger?
Please go sit down.
Name is Armor
Go sit down.
Ah,
Please go sit
goodness.
down.
Oh, Unc being
Um,
himself. So
Yeah, Unc is always a delight
yes.
in whatever form we get
Truly,
him.
long live Unc, long live Uncle Mr. Ali from
Uh-huh.
Bless
From
Your Heart, Ashley
Bless Your Heart.
Nicole.
Yes.
Right, we love the sassy elders.
And check and spades.
Yes, Check and Spade from Lady Nisha. Long live the sassy elders.
All
We
day.
love them. The golden girls and guys. We love them
Yes.
all. We love them all.
All right, Attorney General, I think that's it.
All right, ma'am.
What is the next? Do we know?
Well, I think now we're gonna do the McLeans.
Okay, yeah, we'll mash them all up in one book, like I
Yeah,
mean, in one episode, like we
and
did
one
the Black
discussion.
series. That'd
Yep,
be cute.
I think that makes sense.
All right,
All right, bye.
bye.